The number one piece of news coming out of the owners' meetings is that the Niners are okay with keeping Jimmy Garoppolo all year. I'm looking at their website right now, and the headline on their website, 49ers.com, is Jimmy Garoppolo and SF in 2022. 49ers are, quote, all right with that. My question to you is, are they bluffing? Tell me they're bluffing.
I don't think they're bluffing. I think this has gone from, you know what, we're going to work together and get this done, to once Jimmy had the surgery on the shoulder and maybe a little late. Now suddenly it's like, hey, Jimmy's going to do what's best for Jimmy. Guess what? We're going to do what's best for us. And what's best for us is to, drive this thing right to training camp, because I think day one training camp is when they want that money off the books. For the extensions for Bosa and Debo. And I don't think they're motivated to do anything before then, because they've got the luxury of two quarterbacks, two guys they feel like they can theoretically win games with. Who knows? What if Trey Lance suddenly tore something in these offseason workouts? Now at least you got an NFL starting quarterback and your season's not down the tubes because you cut him loose for convenience sake. So I get what they're doing, but it's clearly, I think the kind of the feeling of we're going to work together has been replaced with where everybody's doing what's best for themselves.
Absolutely. And look, I think the Niners are bitter that Jimmy Garoppolo had this surgery without letting them know, kind of blindsided them with it. And now, so I have to say, maybe I'm cynical, but I agree with you. They are not bluffing at all. What they're hoping for, and they said it, Kyle said it, yeah, we'd love to trade Jimmy, but I don't think they really expect to. What's the trade market for Jimmy now? Carolina, and that's it?
Right.
Okay. So
unless you can picture something that I can't picture.
Yeah. So
New York Giants. I mean, is there any chance that is Baker Mayfield really going to go to camp in Cleveland as the number 2 guy? I could see him holding out. See him holding out. Would you flip Jimmy for Baker in the summer if, because let's be honest, Cleveland, Deshaun's going to get suspended. They're going to have some quarterback. So if Baker doesn't play, do they flip Baker for Jimmy in the summer, and now they at least have a quarterback for the first half of their year, and the Niners get a little bit of cap relief while still maintaining, some flexibility? And we don't know how the Niners feel about Baker. They may like him.
I think it would be a mixed statement. I think the Niners want to say that they're all in with Trey Lance eventually. I don't think that's going to happen. It's possible it could happen, but I'm saying the most likely thing is that Jimmy doesn't get traded, and that the Niners are going to have to make a decision. Do we cut him or do we keep him? And I don't think they have the guts to cut him. I think it's the right thing to do for themselves. But I think what they're doing is like, oh, Jimmy wants us to cut him. Jimmy wants to pick his own destination, so we're not going to cut him. And I think it's more important for the Niners to get something for Jimmy Garoppolo so they can say they didn't lose on this, than it is to use this cap. I think they've made that pretty freaking clear. Jed York came out this week and said, oh, yeah, we could keep him another year. So I think the way they see it is they keep him another year, they get a 3rd-round comp pick minimum, and they can say, it's okay. That's a good return for Jimmy Garoppolo. And they give themselves this chance to shoot the moon and get something for Jimmy Garoppolo if someone goes down to training camp.
You know what? I think you pegged that. You know why, Grant? Because think about the other scenario. The other scenario is they cut him right before camp, and then they risk turning off all the veterans in their locker room who were pro Jimmy, who are going to look at that as an aggressive move, an aggressive anti-Jimmy move, if they do that. So yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see how do the veterans in that room react if the 49ers just cut him one day before camp. And suddenly now, they're going to use because that's their timeline for giving money to Debo and Bosa. I think you're right. I think if they get that far, I could see another year with Jimmy on this roster. But that's awkward, isn't it? Because last year they competed.
It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. But I think what's happening here is no one wants to take the loss here. If you cut Jimmy Garoppolo, someone has to fall on their sword and be like, you know what? Didn't work out. We're going to do what's best for the organization, cut our losses, and move on. But the Niners have been pretty clear. They're not willing to say that. The number one goal for them this year is to get something for Jimmy Garoppolo. Super Bowl secondary. Anything else is secondary. They look at themselves as a good competitive team, but the number one freaking goal is to get something good for Jimmy. And clearly they see, well, we can get a third comp, like a comp third minimum. So why should we cut him? Why would we? I mean, really, they're going to pay $27 million for a 3rd-round comp pick. I really believe that. I do.
Yeah.
They're going to.
I think it is more about winning the trade too.
Yes.
I think maybe if this were year 1 of Lynch and he had greater latitude and a little bit more, grace period, maybe he would cut him loose. But right now, I think every one of his picks, every one of his maneuvers is being examined under a microscope. I think he knows it, and so he wants to make the best deal for himself as the general manager as well. So I think that plays into it.
I think he's also sensitive to the fact that everyone kind of saw it as Don Yee getting over the Niners. Everyone was talking about it. Oh, he waited on that. It was clever. He waited on that surgery. Now the Niners have to cut him because they got to use this cap space, and Jimmy's going to pick his own destination. I think the Niners were like, no, I'm not going to let Jimmy win this. I mean, there's so many competitions, and I got to come back to John Lynch. He's not a businessman. He is a competitor. He's a Hall of Fame competitor, and he refuses to lose on this Jimmy Garoppolo issue when it's so secondary. Take the loss, cut your losses, move on. It's in the best interest of the organization. But to me, John Lynch is so laser focused on winning these things.
Well, and I also think there's this is a very aggressive market. If he cuts him today, he could wind up, in Seattle twice on your schedule next year. And I don't know how he feels about that. Now, does he care about that? Does he not care about that? You know what I mean? There's two ways to look at that. You're moving on from him, so you feel like Trey's the better quarterback. But then, do you want him to be in the division? Most teams, prefer their ex-players to be somewhere else. It seems, that because that's where he could be headed on paper, right? Drew Lock, Jimmy Garoppolo, True. That works.
Let's be honest, though. The Niners, like John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, have a ton of job security right now. The one thing that could put them on the hot seat is getting rid of Jimmy, committing to Trey Lance, and him not being that good. That'll do it right there, right?
So especially if Jimmy went to Seattle and kicked your butt.
Exactly. Yeah, and he's winning, you're not. He's in your division. I mean, that really would be bad.
You picked the wrong young quarterback. You gave your division rival your quarterback that got you to 2 NFC championship games.
Exactly.
You got nothing in return. You need to go. You're the problem. You
chose not to play Trey Lance as a rookie, and then you chose to just go all in with like no freaking data in the second year. I mean, you were like and it didn't work out. I mean, I think they realized that that's possible. It's an unknown, and they got to protect themselves from that. So Jimmy Garoppolo is their safety net. As long as he's on the roster, they can go back to him and say, well, at least we'll get to the playoffs. At least we'll get to the playoffs. And
let's be honest, the cap is everybody in the league, you, me, and everybody else, and all the teams, they all know the same thing. The cap's going up, and it's going up dramatically. So really, there's going to be room to keep rolling things back. It's just a matter of how do you want to structure things. So it's not the right time to be like panicked on the cap when you can see that the revenues in the league are going up and the cap's going to go up.